discretion before the video starts. There are some sensitive topics in this video. So if you don't want to hear that stuff, lots of death is being talked about. Don't watch this video. Just wanted to warn you. Don't. Yep. Yeah. Just watch the video. So I'd like to mention that this is the most ambitious project I've worked on. So if you could get Quadeca to see this, that would mean a lot. I love this album, and I know a lot of you do as well. None of this is confirmed unless I say it's confirmed in the video. These are mostly theories that just make the most sense and create a connected narrative. More could be added to the story at later dates because that album just came out like 3 days ago as of the writing of this video. I also use names such as Quadeca, Quad, and Ben in this video. I figured you would get tired of hearing the word Quadeca, so you're welcome. Enjoy. I Didn't Mean to Haunt You opens with Sorry for Dying, a beautiful track that is an amazing opening to this project. Sorry for Dying opens with a chilling, old electric piano that almost seems like it's being heard from another dimension. This intro was the first tease towards I Didn't Mean to Haunt You when the From Me to You Deluxe full movie released. It was played at the end of the movie to signify a new sound. The instrumental then opens to these beautiful horns, giving a sense of a new world, almost as if Quadeca is exploring a new world. The instrumental then breaks into the simple piano melody. Quadeca has a ghostly sounding, unhuman voice that sings, "Come to think about it, it's all in my head. Fuel tank blink, it's been running in the red." These lines infer that he has ran out of fuel or a will to keep living. He goes on to say that he's praying for a green light. This could be a reference to The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. The character in this novel watches a green light on his lover's estate to preserve his hope of belonging before committing suicide from loneliness. This line could also mean that Ben is praying for a sign to keep on living, a green light to keep him from stopping at a red. Quadeca then mentions he had God stuck between his hands, likely referring to something that was capable of taking his life. The next 4 lines go on to describe how people never believed in his dreams or supported him until after his passing. Later in this verse, he mentions an old home he is visiting. This is most likely his childhood home where his mother lives, which is mentioned many times later in the album. The chorus comes in with the beautiful violins coming back from the intro, but with a more haunting sound. Along with the violins, there are these distorted drums that give a sense of realization, as Quadeca mentions that he is trying to communicate with his family, but they cannot hear him. He then, in a very emotion-packed line, communicates that he is sorry for dying, wishing that his mother would not grieve over the loss of her son. Quad mentions that he wants to hold you without haunting, inferring that he wants to be there to support his mother during her grief, but cannot without haunting or not being in her reality. The instrumental then begins to glitch and build up as Quadeca's vocals echo. I believe this could signify Quadeca feeling some sort of sorrow and feeling as if he made a mistake. The percussive instruments come back with a swirling feeling that gives you a feeling of a mood swing or a sense of not knowing how to feel. The album's jingle begins to play, which is on many tracks. It distorts more and more every track, almost like a loss of hope. Overall, this is an amazing track, and it sets the opening for this album perfectly. Tell Me a Joke opens with a very eerie guitar and a knock-knock joke. Knock-knock jokes are very commonly used, but I think it was chosen as a way to infer that Quadeca cannot find anyone in the afterlife as a response to the punchline, which is usually who's there. He continues to tell a joke about airline food, saying it reminds him of his ex-wife. This could be a reference to From Me to You, where Quadeca explains that his relationship was long distance, meaning he would have to take a plane to go see his ex-wife. I don't know if his ex-wife infers that he got a divorce or if they're no longer together because of his passing. The verse then begins with Quadeca asking for the truth and saying that everyone knew him as a person or as a shadow, but never knew him deep down. Quadeca thinks it's funny that his loved one said that it was too soon and considers it a joke. He thinks everyone should have seen it coming, and he believes he was clearly suffering. Then he continues to say a cheesy joke about a bone-dry skeleton saying it was humorous. The humerus is the largest bone in the upper extremity of a skeleton. He clearly uses this joke as another way to communicate his passing, as he is now a skeleton. Quad also said he tried to walk himself out of the ground, inferring that he was buried and is now trying to get used to the afterlife. The chorus then beginning with these very distorted drums that give a sense of anger. He begins to say that all he could hear were the crickets. This is a reference to when a comedian's joke doesn't land that well and they would receive crickets as a response, or silence. This can also mean that it's very silent in the afterlife where Quadeca is. Funny the joke is on me infers that Quadeca regrets his decision to end his own life. Laugh to the grave means that he is laughing at the mistakes that he made to get him to the afterlife. In the second verse, the instrumental slows down again, almost like an emotion of sadness is reaching Ben. The verse states that Quad believes that he was a social experiment. He feels like he was used as a test dummy to see how people would treat him in the public eye. The chorus then comes back with no changes as the instrumental begins to build with sounds of laughing. Drums come in reminiscent of the ones on Sisyphus as the chorus repeats itself. Sounds of knocking pan from each ear, mimicking the knock knock joke at the beginning of the song. The third track, Don't Mind Me, begins with this sad-like sound that feels like Ben has finally realized the mistake he's made and it isn't something to laugh about. In the first verse, he states that he's somewhere in between, meaning he's neither alive nor in the afterlife. He's stuck in some state of purgatory, which is a belief of many religions, primarily Catholic. Ben then starts to look through old family photos, which makes him regret his choice even more. He later refers to a coma and anesthesia, which are real-world analogies of being stuck in limbo or purgatory. The chorus repeats the same lyrics as the first verse, but with a different cadence and some pretty cool instrumental changes. In the second verse, Quadeca is watching his family, specifically his mother, try to find a reason for his death. He wants to know if his family is able to move on without him. The lyric, "You point to the sky, if only you knew I'm so much closer," is saying that his mother believes he's in a higher place. Most likely in heaven, but he's actually in a purgatory very similar to the place he lived before he died, and he can still see her. He mentions that he is right by his mother's side and says right over her shoulder, meaning he is physically next to her in his realm, but she cannot communicate or see him. The second chorus comes back with some added percussion and a mix of the lyrics from the chorus and the second verse. I personally think this really makes a cool sound, and it doesn't really sound reused at all. It feels very unique each time the chorus comes back around. There's an instrumental break after the chorus that has an absolutely beautiful piano. It kind of reminds me of Kanye's piano from Come to Life, I think it was. This break builds into an absolutely awesome sound with swirling violins and amazing backing vocals that leads to an instrumental change. Ben's vocals now have this layered feeling where you can hear him in multiple vocal tracks. It almost gives this feeling that he's all around you like a ghost essence or something. He repeats the lyrics that were previously in the song, but this time he adds that he wants to help his mother get through her mourning, but on his side, from his purgatory or realm. A rendition of It Is Well With My Soul plays into the instrumental. This is a Christian hymn about how life can be unpredictable and challenging, but trusting God can overcome hardship. Track 4, Picking Up Hands, is an absolutely beautiful song I love. The instrumental is something I can't even explain. You kind of just have to hear it yourself. The song is about Ben visiting a childhood room, explaining it detail for detail. He mentions in the refrain that there is dust on the floor, which could mean his mother has not been in there in a long time, and that she is scared or afraid of the memories it could bring back. Ben sees his mother's eyes for the first time since death, and explains it to be the second time he has seen his mother's eyes for the first time, referring to being born and seeing his mother for the first time. I know that was kind of confusing, I'm sorry. The chorus begins and he lists the objects that played a big part in his life. The carpet he crawled on and the bucket he was washed in. He feels a sense of urgency to get back to his old life. He sings, "I need you here with me. I need you just down the hall." meaning he needs his mother to still be in his life. The first verse is all about death and how scared he was seeing his body from the outside. He tries to call for the family dog, but the dog is now scared of him and runs. The dog is the only thing that can still see him, and it makes Ben sad that he's scared of him. There's a line about him and that he used to climb and that gravity is getting used to his weight. This is also a reference to From Me to You, where he uses climbing as a metaphor to describe progressing mentally. Now gravity is getting used to his weight, making it harder for him to climb, which leaves him stuck in a bad mental state. In the second chorus, he uses the bucket he described in the first chorus as a metaphor for a coffin, explaining that he wants his mother dead so they can be together again.
Same basket carry me, I need you there with me, I need you just down the hall.
This would mean that his mother is just down the hall. The second verse has a very strange instrumental, but mentions Lazarus' skin. Lazarus is a character from the Bible who suffers from an illness named sepsis, a condition that makes a person very sick and causes organs to fail. Quadeca uses this as a description for his decaying body. When the outro comes in, Quadeca speaks with a telephone-like effect on his voice, saying that he wishes there was more to death, some sort of congratulations or some sort of prize that he lived for. He mentions the term, "Thanks for playing. This is what the game was."
Thanks for playing. This is what the game was. Unspoken agreements that make perfect sense until you say them out loud.
As a way to convey he wanted some closure to his life, stating in a way that is similar to a video game's ending, referring to From Me to You's It's All a Game. He wanted something more. I will go over Born Yesterday fast because it's a fairly simple song. Born Yesterday is a song about reminiscing on the things Quadeca can't do with his mother anymore since his death. He mentions not having a birthday to celebrate. The song seems to take place a little further after Picking Up Hands, as he speaks about all the places he's been to in the afterlife. There's a lot of regret in this song, things he wishes he would have done for his mother before he passed, stating there is things he wishes he said out loud and wishing he did to make his mother proud. The chorus and line, "I wasn't born yesterday," is a statement used to show that his mother is pretending that everything is okay, when deep down she is lying to herself and the ones around her. At the outro of the song, a Beatles sample from For No One plays, and it's stated that she no longer needs you.
She no longer needs you.
This is confirming that Quadeca's mother is forgetting about him and she doesn't need him anymore. The ad-libs in the song being "to me" and "you" are reminiscent of Summit Part 2, the outro to Quadeca's previous album, From Me to You. Now this is a hard one. It will be tough for me to describe because it's mostly instrumental. The Memories We Lost in translation is more of an interlude than a track, but it has so much meaning. It's the shortest track on the album, but it is a beautiful piece of art. This instrumental is full of sounds of childhood memories and is a real heart-wrencher. In the few lines in the song, he's questioning if he's still remembered or mourned. He feels like he isn't worthy enough to be a part of his loved ones' lives and asks, "What about me?" Feeling separated from his past and alone in the present. Track 7, House Settling, is a turning point for a good bit of this album. This song features Danny Brown and is a perfect song for its purpose. The song starts with a soft xylophone type sound. Quad. In the first verse, Quadeca talks about being alone with his mother's grievance. Having been forgotten, he feels alone. Quad walks around his mother's home where his mother still lives, and his mother hears the floorboards creak as Ben walks across them from the afterlife. She dismisses the noise as house settling and the howls as just wind and nothing else. Quad mentions a vase on the shelf and does a parody of Ring Around the Rosie and says, "Ashes, ashes, a place to myself." This is inferring that his mother cremated him and is keeping the ashes to remember him. But this isn't enough for him. He feels like he isn't being heard. He begins to get upset with his mother and he just wants her to be with him. The beat becomes more menacing and he says that she's dead to him now. In the second verse, he mentions that he feels guilty and he says he can see words through CO. CO is the chemical formula for carbon monoxide, which is a deadly gas that can fill houses quickly. It most commonly comes from gas stoves when left on. Ben then mentions that it breaks his heart, but he will give it a try. Confirming that he is trying to kill his own mother with carbon monoxide poisoning, most likely by leaving a gas stove on. He doesn't want to do it, but he believes it's the only way they can talk to one another again. Verse 3 comes in with Danny Brown. Danny Brown is literally rapping from the perspective of carbon monoxide, mentioning that he will put you in a deep sleep and that you can't see him. This was confirmed by Quadeca on Twitter shortly after the album came out. Danny Brown mentions being fresh off the stove, and pretty much that's confirming that Quadeca's mother was killed due to CO poisoning from a stove he turned on in the afterlife. The chorus comes in one last time to Ben saying, "Can't let you be." Meaning that he will choose not to let his mother move on and that he will continue to haunt her. The song ends with a crazy instrumental outro. The song reminds me of Tyler, the Creator's new Magic Wand, and it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. Knots is a really cool track that is very complex instrumentally but has a very simple concept lyrically. Knots in this song is a word used to replace issues. It's all about the issues that Quadeca has had and that he thinks of himself as ignorant. In the first verse of the song, he confirms the cause of his death by hanging, which is pretty brutal. He does this by saying that he became a nuisance when he tied that knot, kind of referring the knot to a nuisance. Noose used to hang. Yeah, it's pretty off. Later in that verse, he mentions that when people mention his name in stories after his death, he becomes an issue. A stutter, knot, and a glitch. People find it hard to talk about him after his death. In the second verse, he mentions that he doesn't fade to black, he cuts to static. Comparing the afterlife he was living in to static, a place full of white noise and loneliness. This is also clear in the YouTube movie he posted. That's also another way to listen to the album. I suggest that. It's probably the best way. But at the end of that YouTube movie, there's 3 minutes of fading into static. Later in that verse, he says that he had to turn the oven off, feeling guilt towards the murder of his mother. Track 9. Fantasy World. So yeah, get your tissues. This song starts with some really soft piano and very raw vocals from Quadeca. In verse 1, Quadeca feels like every day in this afterlife is just a continuation of the next, feeling like there's no purpose or need to his surrounding. He feels the need to continue to be something more, so he drives mountains away to a place that isn't real.
So I drove mountains away to a place that ain't real.
This is most likely a reference to the mountains from Me to You, but that's not confirmed. In the second verse, he speaks about the listener's fantasy world and that we all have a special place to rethink our options or change our minds.
It's not a cry for help to rethink your options.
The instrumental begins to have a pulse noise from a heartbeat monitor as if Quadeca's coming back to life. The instrumental explodes into this beautiful melody with loud percussion as Quadeca shouts about where his fantasy world is. He just wants to be able to interact with the world we live in, mentioning that's where he wants to live. Knowing that he can't come back to life, he floats away to an imaginary place mountains away where no one can go or stay. He wants to go there without a rush, suggesting that someone will only reach fulfillment in life if they live it out entirely and don't end it themselves. Such a powerful song.
And I've found mountains away where no one can stay. And I go running around.
Track 10, Fractions of Infinity, with, the Sunday Service Choir. This song's main premise is the lines, "Those words don't do you justice." This is used to explain that Quadeca is on another plane of existence than his mother after her passing. He can only barely hear her voice and is starting to regret the decision he has made even more. He thinks that there is more to the afterlife and that this is just a fraction of infinity, a fraction of the rest of time. Ben in the third verse starts to believe that his life was a movie and he just messed it up. He uses movie takes to describe his age, saying take 23, as in 23 years of life would be enough. At the end of the song, the Sunday Service Choir comes in and does this awesome version of the bridge earlier, the words don't do. Yeah, for real though, like truly amazing song.
Those words don't do you justice. Those words don't do you justice.
Track 11, Cassini's Division with Thor Harris, the last song. The Cassini division is a region between two of Saturn's rings. From Earth, it appears as a thin black gap in the rings. The rings represent a static that is in between, referencing Quadeca's dissolving into nothing but static between the world of living and the afterlife. This song has a crazy instrumental that is almost like jarring to hear. Throughout the song, the narrator talks about what Quadeca's death was like and what moving on will change. At the end of the song, the album's static starts to fade in, and it's signifying that Ben and his mother have moved on and hope for the best, even though they wouldn't know each other for much longer. Hey, this is the outro to the video now. Just want to thank you for watching all the way through this. I worked very hard on this video. It took a while. So just want to thank you for watching all the way through. If you want me to do more stuff like this, I'd love to. This is the first album I felt like I needed to do this for, so it's cool. Go stream. I didn't mean to haunt you, of course. And I got a new song coming out November 18th. That's a Friday. It's called Star. It will be on all platforms under my YouTube name. Yeah, so just type my YouTube name in like Spotify, whatever. I'll leave like a link in the description so you can pre-save it if you want. Have a good day.